Hello everyone, welcome to El Morro in Puerto Rico, right in Old San Juan, the historic old town. This is a very important landmark. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is deemed by United Nations as a world landmark because it is the largest Spanish fort in the entire New World. It's also built in the second oldest city also in the New World, post-European conquering. This is Old San Juan, and this is the Castillo San Felipe del Morro fort. Now, this fort used to encompass the entire city all around. However, even though a portion of the fort was shut down and pulled away, it's still the largest Spanish fort you can find in any place in the Americas. Larger anywhere in Mexico, Santo Domingo, Havana, Cuba, etc. So today we're going to explore this fort and then venture into the old town. I hope you enjoy this tour of San Felipe del Morro in Puerto Rico, Old San Juan. Right here I'm at one of the sentries, one of the garitas, what they call it in Spanish. These are basically the lookout points where the Spaniards used to look out for foreign invaders, may they be the Native Americans, the French, the English, or the Dutch. And we're going to learn about all the invasions that they plan over here. So let me show you the views of the garita, the beautiful sentry lookout points. Now, when was this built? How old am I touching these walls right now? Well, this is beautifully preserved. One, because we're in the beautiful Caribbean sun. Two, because this is a very important landmark for Puerto Ricans. Dates back all the way to the 1530s, and it was continuing to be built all the way throughout the 1700s. This is the oldest spot right now in the Old San Juan fort. Let's walk around. Hello Patty, hello Sally, hello Anna. George, you were here in 6th grade. Hello Marianne, hello Gonza. Mirando siempre tus mis videos, gracias por mirando. Estamos en la fortaleza más vieja de todo las Américas, más vieja que tuve en México, Santo Domingo, Havana. Esta es la más grande y la más vieja. Hello Kay, welcome. Hello Maribel. Now look at these. Okay, sound here is going to be very bad. I just warn you. There's a lower part which I'll show you, and the sound will be better. So if you don't hear me, just ask and I'll repeat anything. But check out these views. Oh my god, oh my god. Old San Juan right over there. Beautiful old town. The entire town is a little islet. Think of it like Roosevelt Island in the middle of New York City. And it is, the old town encompasses half of the islet, and it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. That means the entire half of the islet is protected by UNESCO. And also various buildings like this one is protected by the UN. Hey, Sakib, welcome. And Raza, thank you so much for tuning in. Hello, Ale, welcome. Oh, look at these beautiful views of the Caribbean. Well, technically this is the Atlantic Ocean, but this is the grand entrance to the Caribbean, and soon I'll get into why they built this fort in the first place. Let's walk inside. So it's really cool stepping inside here. Wow, so much history right over here. So why did they even build this fort? Well, first, we're standing inside a symbol of Puerto Rico. You'll see it in a bunch of souvenirs. You'll see it in some Puerto Rican flags when they add logos onto them, and some shirts, etc. You'll see it everywhere in Puerto Rican iconography. But why did they build the fort? Well, for that we have to go back to the 1500s, 1493, September 24th to be precise. A man by the name of Christopher Columbus, you might have heard of him, sailed over here to Puerto Rico. This was his second voyage, and he was already coming with a huge thirst for gold. Mostly because he decided to do this massive, risky expedition with a bunch of ships. And he needed to pay back the Queen somehow. So Puerto Rico seemed like the perfect place to land and to maybe take advantage of the natives who were already, unfortunately, dying off after Columbus came on his first voyage. So Columbus came over here, tried to get as much gold and as much other goods he could as possible, and then he went back, continued exploring. All the way until 1508, Juan Ponce De Leon. You might know him because he was known for having the quest of the Fountain of Youth. That came later. He came over here to Caparra. And Caparra is right over here. We'll be walking around the fort soon, but let's give you a little bit of context. Caparra is right in that area. So Caparra ended up being filled with mosquitoes, very swampy and pretty hard to protect. So Juan Ponce de Leon sailed a little bit further down the island and saw this tiny little islet right in front of the Atlantic, the grand entrance to the rich soils of the Caribbean, ripe for plantations, for sugarcane, for rum, and many, many other things. And also the grand entrance to the interior of South America, Central America, first Mexico, Central America, and into South America. Caribbean is the key. If you hold the Caribbean, you hold the Americas. And the Spaniards were here first, and they wanted to hold it at any costs necessary. So Juan Ponce de Leon had an idea to start building a fort in order to protect this island as much as possible, in order to keep the Spanish in control of the Caribbean and of the Americas. Similar to New York City, as they built some forts in the lower tip of Manhattan, they decided to build forts here. But these forts were much grander because they had much bigger threats from navies. Now let's go a little bit further down into the early 1700s. Right in this lookout point, the seas would be clear. There would be no one here. Very clear, very placid. Beautiful day. However, right around this sentry point, if a Spanish soldier was looking out, he would see hundreds of Dutch soldiers. The Dutch were ingenious because they decided to not attack by sea, but to go into the lands of Puerto Rico, bring their soldiers around the islet of Old San Juan, and attack the Morro from the front. They sacked the city and they held control of it for a few weeks, but they had to take over the fort in order to take over Puerto Rico, in order to take control of the Caribbean. So the Spanish started shooting at the Dutch right over here. Shooting at the Dutch with their rifles, cannons were being placed all around. However, the Dutch had a challenge. We'll find out why. Why Puerto Rico stayed a Spanish colony as long as it did. The keys to that, those answers are further down into the fort. Good morning, Ramonita. Good morning, Raza. You're so welcome. Thank you so much for watching from Karachi. I really appreciate that. So here it is. My kids were there for a few months ago. I need to go soon. You have good weather? Yes, we do. Donald. Hello, Becca. Hello, Irene. So happy you can catch me live. I know you've been trying to do so. So look at this. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful weather today. Huge puffy clouds, very normal sight in Puerto Rico. Being a tropical country, it's always coming in and out with rain. Hello, Jaime. Hello, Carmen. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hello, Wilma. And hello, everyone. Welcome. So let's get into a little perspective of where we are in Puerto Rico. First, I gotta drink some water because it is very, very warm today. It is pretty empty. I know I said I wasn't able to go into Old San Juan, and the reason for that is that it was rumored that the issues that are happening in Old San Juan were going to just escalate. Luckily they didn't, and Sunday is very quiet. So let me show you what is... Lee, you saw me in person in Puerto Rico? That's awesome. If you did, where was it? Let me know. So where are we in the Caribbean? So just so you know, I'll show you this way. Puerto Rico, right here at the very tip of the Caribbean. Now it's a very important point because before the age of gasoline and mechanical powered ships had to frequently stop and island hop in order to trade goods back and forth. And the first stopping point would be Puerto Rico. That was key in order to stay. They couldn't land in the smaller islands of Martinique or St. Thomas or Vieques because there were no deep harbors to land. However, where are we in Puerto Rico? We are in the very northern eastern tip of the island. And this is how the Spanish fort looks like. So this is the islet of Old San Juan. This is the older part, half of the island. This is the fort that was the most recently built in 1790s. And this is the older part, built in the 1500s. We're gonna walk all around this fort. Hey Nancy, you say your husband Frank is watching with you for the first time. He is a New Yorican and learning something new. I'm glad I can teach some New Yoricans something new and people from all around the world to learn about the beauties of Puerto Rico. There's so much wonders here to be seen and to be had. Look how beautiful this is. So even though this was a military fortification, it still has its immense beauty to it. So Charles V hired an Italian architect to build this fort as strong as possible in a perfect area, because this is a bluff in the islet of Old San Juan. That means we are elevated by terrain, I think more than 50 feet tall. Plus the fort itself is another 50 to 70 feet tall. Lee, you weren't sure where you saw me and wasn't sure if it was me or someone else. Oh well, I hope I hope you spotted the right person. I know there's people who out there who do look like me. So here we are approaching. We're at the very top of the fort. Soon we're going to go to the lower part, because from the lower part we will continue outdoors into the old town. So, who can name these three flags? Let me know in the comments, what three flags are those? Take a good look. And here's the bell that's rung whenever there would be an attack. And the last time the bell really rung really hard was due to one of these flags over here. 1898. The Americans were thirsting for some colonies. They wanted to end Spanish rule over the Americas. The Spaniards only had two remaining colonies, Cuba and Puerto Rico in the Caribbean. They also held on to Philippines in the Pacific. The Americans knew that they wanted to reign control over the Caribbean so they can establish their influence in Central America and South America. So after a ship blew off the coast of Havana, all the newspapers started publishing that the Spaniards were at fault for that attack. American fear grew. They wanted to establish war against Spain in order to finally bring their rule to an end in this side of the world. And then they did. William McKinley got permission from Congress and attacked the Spanish colonies. Gwen, thank you so much for sharing today. You're so welcome, Gwen. Hello, Delia. You were here in April. It's beautiful. Mark says the United States flag, the Puerto Rican flag. I'm not sure which one's the white one. Great, awesome. You know it very well, Mark. Yep, American, Puerto Rican, and that is the San Juan, Old San Juan flag, the flag of the capital. There's 78 municipalities in Puerto Rico. San Juan is one of them, and that's their flag. Now, a lot of people think that the Puerto Rican flag is related to the American flag, though the Puerto Rican flag does predate the American invasion in 1898. So the last time those bells rung, 1898, the Americans landed in Puerto Rico. However, Puerto Rico luckily did not get the brunt of the war. The war really only lasted a mere 18 weeks, and the most famous battles were the battle in San Juan Hill in Cuba. But here, Puerto Rico got a little bit of action. There was air bombing raids by the Air Force all on this fort. Luckily, the fort was mostly intact, except the original lighthouse. The original lighthouse was destroyed by the bombs of the Americans, and this is the rebuilt version. So the Americans held control of Puerto Rico only until today, but they held control of El Morro until 1961. This was an American base. However, the Americans were the only ones to be successful in conquering this land. Why was that? Why did it take a foreign power nearly 300 years to finally break this fort and take control of the island? Well, let's see the fortifications as we look around and why it was so hard before the technology of the Industrial Revolution to conquer this area. And Carlos, yeah, you're right. It was the Spanish flag back in the day. It seems the San Juan flag just decided to stick with the Spanish flag as their own flag of the pueblo. Gwen, the flag is the Cross of Burgundy. Thank you so much for clarifying. Look at these views. The ocean is so beautifully blue. Wow. Amazing. It is a beautiful, great historic structure. We're touching right now over 500 years of history, from 1530s all the way to 2019. So the wind is very strong. Hopefully there'll be less of it in certain angles. But right down there, if you wanted to attack from the sea, you would have to attack from the Atlantic Ocean. However, there's no coverage in this area of Puerto Rico. There's no tiny little islands to take cover behind. You can't really go to Cataño, which is the next by town, because that is also wide open. There's no dense forest. There's no kind of inlets or bays to walk through. You're completely open here if you're attacking from your naval ships. What's the other way to attack? The other way to attack is by land. did they rebuild the lighthouse or to the original design, or did they use a new design as K? You know, I don't know 100% sure, but I would guess that this is a recreation of the original design. It looks like it. It is in the Spanish style. You see it. Who built it? This was commissioned by Charles V, and he hired an Italian architect in order to build this entire fort. However, the fort took really like 200 or so years to finish construction, all in the mid-1700s. Ooh, very windy today. So El Morro was a construction that took at least, I think, 2 or 3 decades, from 1530s all the way to about the early 1600s. The dates are not fully specific because they didn't hold that much historical records when it came to exactly when it was finished. And you know how forts are always kind of being built. Forts, unlike say a church or a skyscraper or a governmental building or a castle, really never has a finish point because there's always more to protect, and especially when forts are attached to massive walls, so there's always more things to wall up. So first the British decided to come over here. Well, actually, before the British came, the French were scouting this area. And they were sailing pretty far away, see if they had an opening to come and conquer Puerto Rico. However, they threw a few cannons and then they realized, oh, this was pretty impregnable for the French to take over. So they end up going down to the southern end of the island and going through the town of San Juan. And they conquer San Sebastian, and they end up going through Puerto Rico, trying to take smaller towns all around the south. However, they were never able to fully take control of the island. Then the British came, the Earl of Cumberland, Lord George Clifford. He decided to come here with a bunch of ships and decided to start bombing the Morro with his cannonballs. However, the Earl of Cumberland needed to set to land in the area of Caparra. And as he was landing in the area of Caparra, his men started eating the food of the area and the food that was on the ship. However, this was during the hot summer months in Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico, when it gets in the summer, it gets really hot. Right now, it's about like 84 degrees Fahrenheit, and luckily it's a very cool day. But you can have up to 95 degrees, 97 degrees with very, very high humidity. And the men started eating the food that they were stored in the ship and that they were getting from the coast. And when they ate the food, including the Earl of Cumberland, he got a very bad case of dysentery and felt extremely ill. However, he decided to attack anyway, despite being extremely ill and getting symptoms like horrible stomach pains and bloody diarrhea. And the Earl of Cumberland here sent more cannons. However, at the night that happened, according to legend, the people of Old San Juan, who were mostly all Catholic, decided to light up candles in order to pray for their safety. The Earl of Cumberland saw all these lights twinkling about in the night of Old San Juan and thought that the Spanish called for reinforcements. And with a very bad case of dysentery, he decided to retreat and go back home. So the English decided to come back once again via sea. Let me show you.
5 or 6 stories.
Castillo de San Felipe, we have one in Cartagena. Yes, there's one in Cartagena. However, this is the largest one in the New World. Let's take a look at the rooms. Then 1797, the English came back again with full force. 60 ships this time to attack the Spanish fort. They threw cannonballs and cannonballs. They tried to go by land and it didn't budge. And they were ultimately unsuccessful until the Dutch came. And as I mentioned, the Dutch came and they actually took control of the island. However, they needed to take control of the fort in order to fully take control of Puerto Rico. So that brings us to the front of the fort, which we'll get to soon. So stay tuned for the rest of what happened to the Dutch. First, let's look at the rooms in here. Oh, this is the museum. Let's see if we can walk through the museum. Hola de Argentina. Bienvenidos. Natalia. Hello, Scene. How long are you out there for again? Tomorrow's my last day. Stay tuned for a broadcast at 2 p.m. Tomorrow, I'm doing Facebook Lives all throughout today. But tomorrow's my last day in Puerto Rico. Do they have a tour guide there? Yes, they do. This is a national park. So there is tour guides available here, both in English and in Spanish. And I think if you speak other languages, there might be tour services, maybe in French and in German. So check that out. But if you know English or Spanish, you'll be okay. Okay, there's very bad service in the inside parts of the fort, so let me show you a little bit more of the outside parts. But basically inside they just have diagrams and other educational material on what were the weaponries that they used. Let me show you maybe from a little bit outside without going inside the rooms. The reason there's bad service in these rooms is because the walls are super thick. And they're built out of pure stone, so even Wi-Fi cannot contend with old Spanish forts. Hello, Minerva. You really keep us on point. I'm glad, Minerva. Sin, thank you so much for the compliment. I think I'm an intelligent man. Thank you. That's where you're from, Minerva. Oh, you're from Caparra. Welcome. I was there yesterday. Beautiful area, and I saw the old fortifications of Juan Ponce De Leon's first settlement. I love how they painted this yellow. It's amazing. Now each of the rooms has a little kind of lookout point, which is cool. Perfect place to take photos. They do have places inside where they would have prisoners. Yes, I might be able to show you that later in the day at the other part of the fort, the newer part, San Cristobal, which was built in the 1700s. And they have a cool haunted tale that we would love to tell you. So stay tuned. That might be happening around like 4 p.m.-ish. Hello, Helga. And yes, it's still standing. And good morning, Christine. Hola, Naomi. This has been the best lives for me, as it's been more than 50 years that you haven't been to Puerto Rico. You're so welcome, Naomi. I'm so happy to bring you back to La Isla de Encanto. It's a beautiful island now. Airfare is getting very, very cheap. You can find airfare, at least from the New York area, as low as $170. Yeah, which is really cool. I love that. All right, let's check this out. Let's see what else we can check out here. And then stay tuned. I'll take you back to what happened to the Dutch. So here are the cannons that they used to use. So what are these rooms for? Basically, they're just a museum. They show all the cannons and all the stuff used. So here are a demonstration of the cannons. And they also have text in both English and Spanish of each of these items. But let's see if we can go down there. All right, everyone, bear with me. There might be low service, but let's see if we can go to the lower part of El Morro. Let's check it out. Ooh, this is gonna be so cool. Look at this. This is awesome. Awesome. So there's two options for getting down. You can get down by stairs, or you can take a skateboard and go down via the ramp. No, I'm just joking. Don't do that. They specifically said don't use the ramp. Now, is Morro wheelchair accessible? Only like really the front area where we were at just right now. The rest of the area, there's a few other parts where they're wheelchair accessible. Hello, Helen. The currency for Puerto Rico is the Puerto Rican dollar. And it has the face of George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, Abraham Lincoln, and all these wonderful. Wait, they're not. They're not Puerto Rican. What? Oh my God! My entire childhood has been a lie. They never were Puerto Rican. I'm just joking with you. Sorry for the sarcasm, but yeah. The Puerto Rico is part of the U.S. and we use the U.S. dollar, and all Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens, and that's why I never immigrated to New York. Even though I was born here, I migrated over there. So yeah, Puerto Rican dollar. You'll be okay here. Almost everyone speaks English. U.S. dollar is used everywhere, and if you're in the U.S., you don't even need a passport. You can just use your ID to come in here. All right, now we've reached the lower part, and luckily we didn't lose any service. The staircase that I showed you earlier was through here, which seems like very steep and very narrow. And they wanted to, the Spanish built quick access to get down here. But here, we can see a cannon from what they would have shot back in the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, and so on and so forth. Hey Janice, you're from NYC. Daisy says stay hydrated. At nighttime, there's claims of many spooky ghosts. Yes, there is, Minerva. Yes, there is. Ooh, look at this. Just imagine the cannons being fired right over here. And right down there as the English tried to attack. Now, there's also some natural barriers, as there's a bunch of rocks all along the waterways of Old San Juan, so it's very hard to land specifically right by dock. I mean, it's hard to dock right by the fort. If you wanted to dock, you had to go into this bay over here, Old San Juan Bay. And the temperature is pretty hot. It's about 84 degrees, but I'm under pure sun right now. There's barely any shade. Absolutely gorgeous, and don't mind me, I'm going to drink some more water. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask. There's not that much more to talk about here because mostly it was a fort and not that much action was seen aside from those 3 attacks that I told you about, 4 attacks that I told you about. However, there is rumors of a woman who walks the night all throughout here. No one knows her name, but the only thing they do know is that she walks in a long white dress all along the Spanish fort. There's no historical record of this woman. There's no knowledge of who she is or who she was. But she's just walking people don't like being here late at night, mostly for that. However, there's a second haunted tale on the other side of the fort, which you'll stay tuned for later tonight. There we go. Oh wow. Amazing. Daisy says you sank my battleship. I did sink your battleship. Oh, look at this. Wow, everyone. Oh my god. They call her the bride. Yes. How do you say that in Spanish? Let me know, Minerva. I forgot something bride, the white bride. Puerto Rican dollars should have my ancestors in it. They should have Pirata Cofresi, the pirate who's my ancestor, Roberto Cofresi. And look at these beautiful views of Puerto Rico. You already see a few smaller mountain ranges all around. Puerto Rico is a very mountainous island, as we saw yesterday in the Yunque, and it's all around the island. So Puerto Rico, for context, is the same size, almost the same size as Greater Long Island. So Long Island in New York is Nassau County, Suffolk County, Brooklyn, and Queens make up for Greater Long Island. And that island is about the same size as Puerto Rico. However, as you know from our explorations in Brooklyn and Queens, I haven't shown you Long Island yet, but from Brooklyn and Queens, it's very flat. So it's very easy to get around from side to side, up north, east, west. However, not so much here in Puerto Rico, because there is a lot of mountains all around. So traveling within the island is much more difficult. There's highways now, which is awesome, and so it's probably a lot more accessible than other countries, say maybe Jamaica or Dominican Republic. But to get from one side to the other still takes 3 hours, up to 5 or 6 hours from east to west. So it goes to show how something can be the same size and still feel much larger. And that's why each pueblo, each municipality has its own flavor to it, its own culture to it. Don't cannon fire that yacht. Ooh, yeah. I did not mean to harm that poor man who's rowboating, who's canoeing. He's a brave man. He's about to go into the Atlantic. Where is he going? Who knows? Maybe to London. I can tell you're happy, says, let me see who said that. Good morning, Christine. Helen says, I can tell you're happy. Oh, yes, it is. I am very happy to be here. Beautiful area. La Novia de Blanco. Thank you for letting us know. La Novia de Blanco. Spanish, the white bride. The bride in white. And there is the classic garita, Gurit in English, also known as a sentry point or a watchtower in English. And that's where the lookouts used to keep watch all day long and all night long as well. The color of the sea is beautiful. Yeah, it's kind of like a greenish. It's in person it seems a little bit more blue. So maybe on camera it's capturing a little bit more of the green. But yeah, you have this beautiful bright color to it. Very turquoise. Like a dark turquoise. Ooh, look at that. Wow. Look. It's so clear even in the bottom of this box. So it seems like this is a new area. When I came here when I was much younger, there was no bottom area. So let's take a look. Brace your speakers because it is very, very loud here with the wind. Okay, this fort is much larger than I remember it. So the Old Town Facebook Live is going to be a separate Facebook Live about an hour after this. So let's explore more of the fort. and then we'll go into Old Town in a separate Facebook Live. These tours are making me more determined to go to Puerto Rico, says Kay. I'm glad. I mean, that's what I do here on Urbanist. Like showing you new places, new neighborhoods, maybe in New York City or London or other cities, and new places like Puerto Rico, showing you Bucharest, and many other places. I like showing it to you so you can maybe see places that you haven't thought about yet. So here is the little kind of lookout points I point out in each of the rooms. Bad service here. Oh, wow. Oh. Wow, so here we're going into the underground part. And there's bad service, so you might be able to see this in the HD replay. But we're heading into the dungeons. So these are the very beginning foundations of El Morro in 1539. And down there is more of the center. Oh, wow. That's amazing. So I have no idea why the service isn't coming back, but you'll be able to see the replay of this, and there'll be a HD version posted in a few days once I have access to Wi-Fi. But let me tell you the story of the Dutch. So why were they unable to take over the Spanish fort from land and not from sea? Well, from sea, as you saw, it's very difficult. Not even the British Navy could get through. But from land, it's even more difficult because, first of all, the Spaniards cut down all the trees around here, completely flat. The terrain also goes down and kind of dips over there. So anyone shooting from over there is very easy, kind of target the men who are kind of crowding this area. 2, there is a dry fort. So there is a dry fort right over here. This dry fort, the men would have to kind of take ladders or somehow go around here and then try to climb the wall this way, making the wall twice its length. And also very easy for the Spaniards to have their guns pointed down at them and throw any types of bombs or set the moat on fire. It would not be good. Right down there is a continuation of the fort. The wall used to extend all around the islet. However, half of it was dismantled right before the Americans came. But there is still one even bigger part remaining at San Cristobal, right down there. Thank you everyone so much for tuning in. I'm Ariel with Urbanist. Stay tuned for a tour of the old city of San Juan. I'm sorry there was no service for this on, but you'll be seeing me go live in there for more of these videos. And also there'll be an HD version posted later. Keep being awesome and always keep